Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our panel. Should we give 2 more minutes to see if more people are joining before we start? And feel free to say in the chat where are you joining us from, and also, well, why this makes you excited. We're really happy to have you all in this panel, and well, it's gonna be a lot of fun and a lot of insightful topics.
We have people from
Perfect.
everywhere.
Oh my God, I didn't see the chat. Now I see the popping notification. Awesome. Wow, thank you all of you to join. This is so much fun. Hello, Rebecca. How are you? We have somebody from Detroit. Well, no, this is amazing. We have, oh wow, somebody from Dubai. That's cool. Well, I am currently in Colombia and we'll be back in Boston next week. But well, thank you everyone for being here and taking this time of your day. We're gonna go ahead and start, and everyone else should be able to get in without the waiting room. So to begin, we wanted to introduce a little bit of IDSA Boston. We are the Industrial Design Society here, and we started the chapter back in November of last year, and it's been popping. We try to do both online and on-ground events in multiple locations, and we're always happy to hear what the community wants, what are their needs, and well, always very open to collaborate. And if you have any idea, feel free to drop it on LinkedIn or our Instagram. We're always looking up for the community and what do they need. So we wanted to begin with our team too. Like I am Daniela Garcia, the vice chair, and Saloni is also here joining us. She's the chair. Annie, Natalia, Sarah, Hannah, Nick, Royden, and Snippet. We're all part of the team. Feel free to reach out to any of us if you want to collaborate or you just need anything. We're always happy to talk with any of you. And for today, this is our panel. First, Rina. Rina is a New York-based CMF Design Consultant, educator, and founder of Unwrap CMF. As a former head of CMF Design at Motorola, a Lenovo company, Rina has led the team successfully delivering IF and Red Door award-winning projects to the market. With over 14 years of global experiences in CMF design, she now has been helping with global companies in trend watching, market insights, and crafting CMF strategies from concept to production. And our local-based Courtney Dipiertro has a strong background in industrial design and product design as a senior CMF designer at SharkNinja. Courtney has played a key role on delivering over 20 plus global innovative products to market, working closely with engineers, marketing, and manufacturing teams. With experience designing across product categories from Shark vacuums to Shark Beauty, Courtney specializes in creating color material finish solutions that resonate with brand identity and meet customer needs while supporting brand goals to produce high quality, cost effective products. And well, me, I am currently at Sprout Studios. I do industrial design and CMF and also part of Boston IDSA. I started CMF when I was at GE Appliances, and now every project that comes in with that topic, I try my best to approach it and still learning from all of you. And as most of the people connected, I'm also always looking to grow the knowledge here in this topic that definitely is always wanting more attention. This is our agenda. We're going to start, well, we started with our 10-minute intro. Now we're going to start with CMF Essentials, a little Q&A, and group photo. If everyone wants to turn on their cameras there, that would be amazing. And then advanced CMF and conclusions, answering our title question of what should we care about CMF. And then a little section for Q&A to end. So we're going to begin with the essentials. The starting question tends to be, I am interested in CMF. how do I start and when do I start thinking about it? But before that, we want to say that CMF is way more than just color, material, finish. It goes way beyond on the color being branding and palette, color psychology, color accuracy, and material being way more than just material characteristics, bill of material, and mechanical feasibility, and finish being graphics, surfacing, and perceived quality. So with that in mind, we can begin on that interest. And how do you start if you're interested? As when do you start thinking about it? So, Rina, go ahead and start this.
Okay, so I'm gonna share this slide and feel free to take a screenshot. I'm not going to walk through all the details, but this is a CMF workflow. I put it together actually for many years now, and I always use this to kind of demonstrate how CMF isn't just CMF. And as you can see up on this graph, we start with the left side with strategy. And then once we move into portfolio or project, then we start cooking CMF concept. And then we are trying to realize that concept from computer screen to actually something we can hold in our hands. So like execution. So answering to that question, how do I start? Like I'm interested in CMF, how do I start? And when do I start thinking about it? So answering to this two questions, I think first thing is I'm interested in CMF, then also think about CMF not as a job title necessarily, like what Daniela is doing. She's titled as industrial design, but day to day, she has a lot of CMF responsibilities that she's involved with. So also think CMF as a skill set, something you can equip it as an industrial designer or an engineer or even product managers. It's also like it's also very beneficial to have some basic knowledge in CMF. So if you're interested in CMF, I think what makes CMF so fun, and I mean, I've been doing CMF since 2011 and I'm still doing it. What I really enjoy is because there's such a wide spectrum as shown on this page. You can totally be someone that's more interested or more specialized in trend forecasting. You can be someone that is more fluent in technical issues. That's like, we need people like this for mass production. So people comes with different specialty, comes with different interests. And if you find CMF interested, take a look, take a deep dive into this graph here, and then try to see if there are areas that interest you. I think whatever you enjoy, that always motivates us, right? So I would say like that's where you start, like pinpoint something you're interested, and then just work on some more research on how do you sharpen the skill set in that. And then also when do you start thinking about it? If we look at this graph, definitely we want to start thinking about CMF all the way from the strategy side, not just like, oh, after industrial design is completed, now let's pick a color, let's pick a material. It doesn't work that way. So just start thinking early if you can.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. Thanks for joining. Rina does an awesome job outlining all of this, and I am really focused on, the strategy side. So I guess I wanted to give you a few tips, but, I also want to say, like, look around you, because what people buy and what your subconscious CMF. So here are some tips to introduce CMF a little bit more into your portfolio and initial stages of product development. You can really start figuring out who your target consumer is, and then you want to figure out brand identity, and you want to look into similar products on the market, see what they're doing, see what they aren't doing, and how does your product fit among everything else? How is it different or refreshing in some way too to what's on the market? So all of that, and also researching new processes and innovations in CMF, sampling early on, because that can take the longest time.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And based on that, as a designer or a company, without the CMF function before, like if they are trying to add it or something, where can they incorporate CMF on the design process?
Yeah, so definitely the initial research will help you build out the visual identity of the product. And it's important, I think, to build mood boards that are balanced with your product imagery to really help show those potential CMF executions. And then you use those mood boards to really base all your concepts off of. And visualizing those concepts through high quality renderings is all in good process. You can also incorporate it more by just gaining a deeper understanding of CMF importance. You're constantly exposed to products and product marketing. So you can look at, store displays and inspiration that you're exposed to give you insights to those consumers and, consumer attraction and CMF decisions. And I guess if you're a company that wants to introduce CMF more in those CMF practices, I would say it's best to invest in training your teams or introducing someone that is specialized in CMF onto your team, because your clients might not know what CMF design is, and they might not want to pay for an additional service or, waste time in that area if they just don't know what it is. But if you can have CMF built really into the core of your process, then it'll differentiate you from other designers or other companies, and that will, be of value to your client.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So the earlier, the better, and then you'll see how much value it adds. And what do you think are common mistakes while starting this journey of CMF?
Yeah, so I am also going to kick up this question. So your consumers are identifying with your brand, and CMF is really becoming more well-known and a very big relevant branch of design. There are so many products out there. There are hundreds of vacuums, but CMF can really help, what separates. And I guess the mistake is not following the data and not following the research and the trends. So, considering the brand identity and the data when making those decisions is critical. Another common mistake is being tied to personal preferences, ignoring your preferences and sticking to the data and the consumers. I think that's where the real professional, CMF comes in. And I kind of wanted to give this example of my little sister who is, 15 years old, and she's obsessed with pink and cheer. And, if I were to give her a water bottle that's, dark black and red and durable, she wouldn't even look at it. She'd be like, no, I'm not thirsty. So I guess, on the other hand, my boyfriend might love that. And that's why, you really want to understand who you're selling to.
Totally. And what do you think, Rina?
Let me take an actual example here. I think one of the common misconception about CMF is definitely not just about color. And I don't blame it, because color, everyone has such a strong feeling about color. I'm sure material and finish as well, but color is just so easy to understand, right? Like we grew up having those little books about like, oh, what's red, what's blue, what's yellow. Right? Like we are associated with colors in such an early stage in our life. And when we see that's why like when we see the word CMF, people immediately associate like, oh, it's something about colors. It's creating color proposals for a product. It's true, like that is true. And that's also the fun and beautiful part of what CMF is about. But definitely not, CMF is definitely so much more beyond than just color. Take that earlier slide, for example, where like have all the breakdown of what C can be, what material can be, what finish can be. There's so much more to that. I was very lucky when this is earlier on in my career. I had this, I went to a talk, and this was a talk by the head of color material design at Nokia, Grace. So Grace was saying that in her talk, she mentioned something It's a word called material-driven design. And that was very new to me. I was very young as a CMF designer. So for me, that's where my misconception was. I was thinking like, oh, that's a choice of color. And maybe a little like there's some material and finish as well. Like that was like my thought thinking before I heard that speech. So that material-driven design, she gave an example of, at the time, Nokia, this was back in 2012, 13. And she was given the example that of a Nokia, actually several products, but they were trying to introduce something that's using double injection, using clear, transparent material on top of a solid color. And then they were like, okay, so that's material, right? And then they were like, oh, how do we enhance that experience, like enhance that concept of playing with transparent material? So they start doing this edge glow neon color palette. So that's an exact, a very good example of how color can come after material. So they decide on the material together with industrial designers, right? Like that design concept, you cannot just be coming from the CMF designer. You have to work together with industrial designer to prepare that idea. And because they're playing with this material, this transparency on top of solid color plastic, they wanted to introduce a neon edge glow color. So that's where color comes in second. So I feel like that was a very like career worthy concept to learn in such an earlier stage. And then here I have Motorola G100. So this concept was developed when I was Nokia, but then launched after I've left. But as you can see here, this was, and this is not just by the CMF team. I want to make it clear. It was by my CMF team, the designers, and together with industrial designers. So it's a very collaborative project, even starting from the concept. To be even more precise, it was one of the idea. We had this design marathon like practice, like we just sit together and just start cooking a lot of ideas, industrial design ideas, CMF ideas, like day to day, and we have a week like that. And this was one of the concepts. So let me explain a little bit more about this. So these two pieces over here in the photo, they're not glass. These are the back inlay of a mobile phone, and they're using transparent plastic. And you might think it's very easy to do like injection for plastic, but to get it to this level of clarity, like really, really glass looking, it's actually not as simple as we thought. But at the time, this was back 2019, actually 2020-ish. At the time, the industry was ready to introduce you can understand it as a injection clear plastic that really, really look like the quality of glass. So since we can do injection, that means we can mold it any way we want it, right? Well, almost any way we want it. I'm sure there are limitations as well. So what designers were thinking here was, what if we mold, so previously camera lens, so on the bottom right corner, that picture, camera lens are usually like a separate piece, like that square. If you have your phone with you, turn around, it's probably the case. Maybe not all devices are like that, but most of the case, there's a separate camera lens for your mobile phone. So the time, since we could do this all together with this piece of a material, designer wanted to create this staircase effect. I have a zoom in at the bottom right, like this staircase effect. And it has a few benefits, like from industrial design perspective, that it makes our phone looks thinner. And because it bumps up the camera, so it makes the overall phone like thinner than it is with the cam if we take out the thickness of the camera. And from CMF perspective, so this is decided between industrial design and CMF designers. And then they decided on the staircase design altogether. I wouldn't call it like an industrial design concept or CMF concept. I feel like it's a collaboration here. It's both. But the next question is, how do we enhance it, right? So as you can see, mobile phone back inlay are super flat. So when you turn around, you don't really see much out of the staircase. So we wanted to add some dimension to some more visual effect too, since we're using the staircase design. So as you can see in the photo that this back inlay actually has gradient iridescent visual effect to it. So once you turn the device, around the edge of that staircase also glows and changes color, just adding some more visual complexity to some more visual interest to this product. So this is a long example, but what I really want to say is, going back to that question, like the common mistake when starting a CMF journey, we always, and I had this too, like I thought CMF is majorly about C. I go it in the order of C and then M and F, and that's not true. Like it can be a material-driven conversation. It can also be industrial design form factor and CMF altogether conversation, and color can come later if it has to. So just something that I think will be beneficial for designers to remember as they walk further into their career path.
Right, absolutely. And that example was amazing because you understood, like, with CMF help, you created more depth on a product and you created that perception and more interest. So, well, that's the power of it. And now, what do you think about like the influence of CMF in user experience?
So I would say that, and I use this word a lot, is perceived quality. And also emotional value. I'll talk more maybe later on, but let's look at, I would say like, let's look at whatever device you're watching this panel with. I see some of you are wearing a headphone. You might be watching this from your laptop. Maybe you're using a mouse right next to you. Just imagine, like I'm using a MacBook Air, which is a silver, it's bead blasting finish, like the satin finish. The keyboard is like this matte gloss level plastic keycaps. And just imagine if that is changed, right? Like take a moment to look at the device we have in our hand. Take down your headphone if you have to, but like imagine if it was done differently. Well, are we going to feel the same about these products, right? Like if my MacBook Air, the keypads are glossier than it is right now, how do I feel it? Is it more slippery, or does it get a lot of fingerprints? I eat a lot when I work, so I'm pretty sure like I will have a lot of fingerprints on the keypads. And like also the metal part, what if it's slightly glossier than what it is right now? Does it make it more premium looking or lower quality, right? So that's really where I think like CMF really influence user experience. And if you are aspire to become a CMF designer or adding CMF into your skill set, whoever you are, whatever you work on, I think one little thing you can do from day to day is start paying attention to those little details of the product you see in your surrounding when you go out to the market or at home, and reason that, like, what are you liking about this, right? Like there's a word that we usually say, oh, it doesn't look as high quality, but what exactly is making you feel like it's not the good quality, right? So if you are aspired to become a CMF designer or like equipped with that skill set, that's a good exercise from day to day to like question yourself. Like you see something great quality, what's making it great quality? It's definitely more than the material. It's also the choice of finish, and also a lot of details can go to industrial design details as well. It's not just CMF, like the edge, if it's what's the corner radius, what's the smoothness, all of those. So really pay attention to those details. If you see something you don't like, again, ask the same question, what are you not liking it? And how, if you are the designer for that product, how would you design it differently with a CMF, like even in execution, to like enhance the quality? Hope that answers.
Yeah, what do you think, Courtney?
Yeah, I completely agree with Rina. I think there's also an example of how, there could be different people touching different things. It's important to get different concepts into a different. Someone with long nails might have a harder time with a certain touch point than others. Another thing to highlight maybe that's really important is you can draw attention to a certain function or technology of a product so that users can really understand the usage without explanation. And it's all, visual cues through a product to, get the point across that it's doing something.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. Those were great responses. And now we're going to go into the Q&A of this first part. Please feel free to drop the questions in the chat, or don't be shy, unmute. We'll be happy to meet you and answer your questions if you have any about, well, this first part.
And I also want to give a reminder that we're doing a group photo after this. So if anyone's not ready for the camera, get yourself ready. What is that? I see a hand somewhere.
Nada, feel free to
yes,
go for it.
If I'm looking straight to the side, that's because my laptop's broken, so the screen is and the camera is on one side. So yeah, so I'm a student, and I think a lot about CMF, but I guess I wonder, because like with my research, it's a lot of companies like that have a lot of budget, but I was thinking like maybe one day I'll have a startup, or from a student perspective, I think a lot about like the trade-offs and limitations of budgets, because like in theory, yes, I can make this product in like so many different materials, and I think like, well, I guess two questions. First of all, like how to like show in a portfolio that you're considering about marketing and budget without making it seem that you haven't explored as many design opportunities when it comes to CMF, and also like what are examples of trade-offs you experience in the professional setting that could be applicable for projects that are lower budget.
I can take the second question. Courtney, do you want to take the first one?
Yeah, I think you said how to show, in your portfolio that you're really considering cost.
Yeah, and without making it sacrifice how it looks, because I think like some projects I get really excited, I'm like, I can make this in like 12 different colors, and then when I think about it, I'm like, oh, this material may not be like manufacturing wise, may not be as like feasible to make it out of this, and it will be unrealistic from a manufacturing cost perspective, and I don't go through that route. But I have considered putting in my portfolio like the different options and the reason for elimination. But so far I've like eliminated things that made it seem that maybe I haven't been considering it as much as I have.
I think there's a common conception that CMF just adds things in and adds costs, and it is true, but also CMF designers do really look at how you can make designs more effective for cost. And that's a lot of what I've done in my experience. And there's still, a lot of tricks and tips over time that you can, just by understanding processes more and becoming more familiar with how much different executions might cost. And this can be done through, just basic research. If you are thinking of, painting something or adding a logo or branding, with, you know, the most premium execution of like your most ideal scenario for that. And you can kind of break it down of, okay, this might make this product so much more expensive than I want it to be. So here are some other ways that we can still get it to look really nice, really good, but you know, maybe it's something more subtle and it's not so much added cost. And you know, I think that that would be a good starting point for something in your portfolio.
Yeah,
And-
I love that suggestion about like, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
and
you
now
for
I'll just
asking.
add
Now,
one-
go
sorry.
for it.
Yeah, I would just want to add one sentence because I see a lot of questions popping up, so that's great.
Yeah.
Just adding one sentence to that is, well, like think about it, CMF is already a cheap solution, right? Sometimes we'll keep the same tooling and we just change the color, the pattern, the finishes, and it's a whole new product. Like toolings are super, super expensive. They're probably like, I don't know, like a year of our salary sometimes. So depending on what kind of product you have. So that's already money saving for thinking about CMF in a different way. And also like another also think about reversely, because you only have so little budget. CMF are actually the people who knows how to make the quality as best as we could with your budget thinking in mind. So yes, sometimes like a process will add value, but think it reversely. Like we are the experts in like, hey, we only have this amount of money. What do we do to make it as best as we could?
Okay, that is very insightful. Thank you. Well,
Thank you for asking. And now I see, Shivani, you have your hand raised. I hope you can correct me if I said your name wrong.
Yes, perfect. I'm Shivani. I'm from India. So I have this question about all the recycled materials and the new material library which is getting created across the globe by different designers, by different engineers, so my question is, with the different changing materials, the way it is manufactured. So like Rina right now mentioned, we have the same toolings. So now the challenge already comes with different recycled material is how it actually gets properly manufactured in the existing tools. And now what challenges we will be facing further with respective to material finishes and getting the uniformity and across the mass manufacturing products. So when there is some recycled material, and what kind of challenges are designers supposed to be prepared for with the changing materials and challenges with recycled material. So I have a book by Daniel. It's called Better Things, and he has a whole library of all kinds of materials, and so yeah, of recycled materials. And I was going through them, and then there are different upcycled materials as well. So yeah, these questions are split into two. One is upcycled materials and one is recycled materials. So yeah.
So we actually have a question on sustainability later.
Okay.
So we'll go into more details later, but I would say just a very quick answer to that is what designers should be prepared for is first be prepared for like, no, don't put coating. And this is the reason because once you put coating on top of like say plastic, it's non-recyclable. So
Right.
And Logitech, so I was working on a contract at Logitech just a year ago, and I would say they're a great company that really invest in sustainable design. And a lot of products that Logitech has are uncoated, and that
Okay.
just kind of allow them to like recycle, upcycle materials, like bring the materials into a second life, right? They're already using recycle PC, recycle plastic in the making of their product, but then this is only the second life cycle. By not adding top coat to Logitech products, then there's a potential of this plastic to go into the third life cycle or fourth life cycle. So that would be more like a true sustainability and not just pause on, hey, we're using recycled material. That's it. really extending that. But we do have another question on sustainability once we go into advanced CMF. So hopefully we'll have more information for you on that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Rina.
Thank you for asking, and I'm going to go over the chat really quickly. So Rebecca asks for both of you, what are your favorite resources, websites, media consumption, store walks, etc. for CMF inspiration, trend forecasting, and trend setting?
I can start. I personally really love WGSN as a overall looking at the market trends. I think it's a trusted resource, but what I do is I look at a lot of what I see on WGSN and I'll start to, find those areas in Pinterest and gather a lot of consumer tech related imagery or, build out like where I can identify those trends in other areas and images. But I do think it really is like the best when you can and see everything in stores and touch and feel things in person.
Sure. I did add a link. Nicholas also asked a question. Any resource for independent designers? So independent designers who are not able to access WGSN, right? Acquiring trend forecasting data. So there's two questions to that. So I sent in the chat. If anyone is interested, there is a list of trend watching websites. If you have something that you would like to recommend that's outside of the list, leave a comment there. I will include that. And thank you for contributing to the list. And then I'll also add some articles on how to utilize data to back up your trend forecasting inside, also in the chat. That's kind of related to Rebecca's question.
Great. Now we have, let me see, how are we good in time? Yeah, we have 5 more minutes. The other question is, can you share a bit of the first job or project you have worked on related to CMF? And then the second one is saying if you are leading an intern, what are the skill set or mindset that you would appreciate or you hope your ideal intern would have?
That's a really good question.
Huh?
Yeah, Rina, do you want to start?
No, you go ahead.
So I guess for the first part, my first CMF project, I think it helps also having been an intern and having the experience under someone that I really respect who trained me with good values, to then be able to pass down to the new interns under me, has been really valuable. The first product that I worked on was for Shark, AZ3000, and it's a big corded upright vacuum that I didn't necessarily personally identify with, and we had to really build out a CMF that I wouldn't necessarily want, and that was really interesting because I had to disassociate and really figure out how to put my head into the consumers in this classic and high-tech approach to a vacuum. So that was that. And then I guess for an ideal intern, I think having an intern with passion and motivation to learn, that asks so many questions and wants to understand why things are happening is the best quality to have, because I'll explain things as long as it takes because that's what I'm passionate about with CMF, but to be able to share that with someone that is curious is awesome. That's what I would say.
So I see, I'm going to grab another question. I love this, like I can just grab questions from the chat. So Jade has a question. Is there a website for some kind of official list of the different properties of manufacturable materials? So the answer, like officially, not really officially, because what's official, right? But this is a difficult, like CMF is interesting. I recently talked to an industrial designer. He's wanting to switch to more CMF focus, and he explained this in a way that I found interesting, and I never thought about it before. He's saying like CMF feels like something you continue to grow and add knowledge to your role, which is very true because like in the past 10 years, when I starting off my career, I've always worked on mobile phones. And we change a lot of material throughout the way. I'm always learning the new materials. And now I work by myself, and I work with different kind of products category, and I'm continuing learning new materials. And what I'm trying to say is there are so different industries and different product categories have very, very different requirements, durability requirements, or testing qualification process. So it's challenging to say like, oh, what are all the materials that I need to learn to become a CMF designer? The answer is like, you know the basic to start. You find a few common material to start with, and then you continue to add onto that, whether you're an industrial designer or CMF designer. It's always like throughout project, you continue to add a piece by piece. I will, however, send in the chat later, responding to Jade's question. I will add a link of like some readings that you can do if you're interested in CMF, and one of them is actually a manufacturer book. Maybe some of you already read that.
Awesome. Well, now we are on time for our picture. I'm going to stop sharing. So please, everyone, if you could show your cameras. Let me see. Rina, do you have the full view?
The full view?
Of the attendees?
I will have to do 2 slides. Like I'm very happy. Thank you all for joining. I have 2 pages here, so we'll have to do separately.
Okay, I'm gonna put it in gallery. Oh yeah, I also have 2 pages. Okay, if I don't know if you can see the page 1, but I'm gonna take the first one. I see a lot of faces, and that's amazing. So thank you for joining. I'm gonna take the first picture. Everyone smile. Thank you. And now we go for our second picture on the second page. Thank you so much. Awesome. Now I'm gonna go back to share.
Thank you all for joining. Yeah, like all really around the world, right?
Yes, this is amazing, and we're super happy. We'll probably have more of this coming soon. And now we're going to go for CMF Advanced. So to begin, asking to Courtney, as you work in such a big corporation like SharkNinja, can you talk a little bit about that role on the cross-disciplinary collaboration that CMF has to face day to day?
Yeah, so in my experience, I believe that there is, this bridge between engineering and marketing, and CMF designers really help, build the bridge between those two. There's this heavy engineering side of CMF that is connected to production and controlling the detailed ID specs and CMF processes. There's constant conversations with the engineers on how to achieve certain finishes, and a lot of back and forth with the factories. And then there's another whole side of CMF that's really connected with marketing. And, we really work closely with the marketing teams to find a product that, is for a consumer or a specific launch scenario. Yeah, and that can really help, separate kind of the 2 brains that you have to have when you're thinking of CMF.
Awesome. And can you share an example where maybe CMF made a significant impact on product success?
Yeah, so getting to just a general deeper understanding of production processes, as we've kind of mentioned, makes a significant impact on a product. And it allows you to make more complex requests and solve higher level issues. A lot of CMF designers, like, we're at the forefront of understanding how to implement new processes or, new things. So it really can benefit the project and meet project goals. So this is an example of the Shark Flex style and a Bedazzle CMF. And it's kind of like an exciting limited edition launch that we did for the Met Gala. And we took the, original design and really gave it some glow and excitement and bedazz for tied to an event. And it's been an extremely successful launch. And then there's actually another slide after this that shows the same product in a different CMF. And this is an Aqua Splash colorway that launched for summer recently. And it can just show how the, same product, two approaches can, attract different audiences and different user groups. And, the sparkle might add more extra cost, but in this case, we have, working at Shark, there's a lot of products and we have the ability to make one product in different CMFs to attract different users.
Right, yeah, this bounces back on that importance and that mistake that people normally take on not paying attention to what the user is, because here we can see how the same product can look completely different and attract totally different audiences. So that's amazing. And can you describe a situation where data-driven decisions contradicted intuitive design choices, and how was this resolved?
Yeah, even for this product, data is really helpful in the CMF design process. It gives the designer, the clients, the leadership more confidence in the direction, if it's right in the data. But if you're getting bad data on a certain direction, then you might want to rethink strategy. But for this one, it was testing well, and we took the risk to go forward with it, even though some people were very hesitant, and it's been really successful. So trust the data and take risks, but if the data is not showing up, you might need to rethink.
Awesome. And what do you think, Rina? Oh, I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm gonna use this example to describe how data changes our design decision. And this is just one of the many examples, but I thought it's relevant. It's a cute example to share. This is Motorola Moto G8 Plus, and I believe the year was like 2019-ish. And so what you see here on the screen is actually the final launch product. And thanks for internet for giving me a good image of that. In the back inlay, it doesn't really show that well with the still image, but this phone, the back inlay actually has a reflection that looks like a bubble. So it's like you're looking into a mirror and it feels like there's a sphere inside with a reflection. Nothing related to this example though, but I just want to show that that was kind of the design intention. And to add to that sphere, this bubble looking thing, we decided to incorporate a gradient that surrounds this bubble. So to kind of just like adding the visual interest. During the concept stage, this device was made into a prototype, and we were actually what you see here is the actual final launch product. But when we're developing the concept, it was actually a dark blue color fading to a tinted silver blue, so like a very lighter blue color. And we just thought, okay, that makes it a little bit more like metal premium looking, and also that fade is more, shows off the sphere. I don't know what we're thinking, honestly. That was so long ago, but that was the idea. Like designers, as the design team, were like very confident about, hey, we're gonna do a dark blue fading into this light silver-ish blue. we're very happy with that. We made prototype, and this was back in Motorola. And at Motorola, we did a lot of consumer research for CMF. We did fortunately have a design research team that we can always collaborate with. We will prepare prototypes, we'll prepare color chips. And for this case, we prepare CMF prototypes, so like mock-ups to be sent to, because most of the designers, CMF designer, sat in China, different offices in China, but our target audience was in North America and South America. So very, very far away from us. So to understand our consumers, we're designing from people so far away from us. So it was also very like consumer research, collecting data was also super important for us to validate our design story, because we are designer, we have good aesthetics and design beliefs, but we still need to validate if that is correct for wherever we're selling our product to. So in this case, we did not a large set of data, but more like it was more like focus groups. So the prototypes was sent to Brazil, and I believe they also did it maybe UK or Chicago, but it was sent to São Paulo, Brazil, and the design researchers did several focus groups. Not a large set of data, like focus group are usually like the size of 6 to 8 people, 10 if necessarily. But one of the feedback, so we got like a lot of good feedback. Oh, I like that. I feel like the perceived quality is good, the quality is good, and what I like and da. But one of the very common feedback that we continuously to receive is that because it was fading into a silver blue, like a very silver-ish color, it felt like the color was being rubbed off, right? Like when we've been using the same item for a long time, some of the color, when it's not applied well, it feels like, oh, the color was fading away. And that's what consumer was telling us. So data in this sense, even though this is a small number of data from, we did several focus group, but that was still like 20 people maybe. Like even within this small group of data, this qualitative feedback help us to see bias or to uncover blind spot that we previously have as a design team. I wouldn't say it goes against our design concept. I feel it's more like data is a tool, right? We get those feedback, we receive whether quantitative feedback or qualitative feedback, and then use that to polish our design concept. So I wouldn't say like it's going against what we believe, but just help us to make the design better for our end user.
Awesome. And about that focus group and those testing, I know it's really hard to convey material through like something like online. Were you giving samples or how was this happening?
I usually don't, so never. And we mentioned about this in the earlier question, right? Like, how does CMF influence user experience? And CMF is definitely a huge thing on physical experience. So I will always try to avoid online testing because even color changes dramatically. So that's why we would at Motorola, if we're surveying on a color palette, we would prepare sometimes 3 sets or 4 sets of the exact same thing. One set for us to keep, and then the other set that would just kind of tour around the world to do different surveys. Always like physical in person, because it's not just about color, and color also changes from monitor to monitor. CMF is about the material, it's about the finish, and a lot of respondents love to like grab the sample, feel it, and that's when they can tell like, oh, I feel this is like comfy or this is premium looking. That's when they can really respond to that instead of like just looking at images. I don't think that's the best or the fairest way to conduct a survey.
Right, awesome. And now we're going to ask about the sustainability. So whoever asks a question, pay attention. How do you implement sustainable choices without affecting product functionality and durability?
Yeah, so I'll start here. Designers are always asking and thinking about sustainability, which can mean introducing environmentally safe materials, but sustainability can also mean, durability and longevity in materials. But sustainability is often, a premium that might add more cost or time in some way. So for some companies, it might not be as easy to implement. But sustainability in general will always be a very large and growing CMF trend that is important to keep into consideration, because that's how to stay on top of all the, CMF and material innovation.
And let me
Awesome.
continue adding on top of that. Here's a page, is an example of the very, very few of the sustainable material in my collection. This was, I think I took this photo like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, and there's not much more now. But if I think about, and if you're interested in like learning more about those, I have like where the company made that. You can do some more research. Actually, some of them are design studios and some of them are like sustainable material manufacturers. I'm a big fan in this, and it's always lovely to see different innovations in this topic. So yeah, do some more research if you find that interesting. But one thing I need to mention is like, even looking at this photo right now, we have upcycled plastic, recycled plastic, we have recycled glass, we have bamboo fiber plastic, we have, let me think what else. There's also like a hemp composed material that looks like wood. But if I look at this image here and think about the products that I did for Motorola, I'm probably very confident to say like none of this will work for our industry standards, just because we work with mobile phone. And it could be a very different story for Courtney's, right? Like SharkNinja has a very different like product category from what I used to do. And this really, like I was answering in the Q&A before, it's very, very different from industry to industry. So like if I'm working on mobile phone industry, I can already see like a lot of them doesn't surpass our testing standard, because mobile phone, it's becoming a product that we carry 24 hours pretty much, right? Our hand is constantly interacting with the phone. And also it's like such a thinner product. And also it's like composed, like assembled together very closely with the internal, all the mechanical structure and all the internal components. So it's a very different ask. So it's just like looking at this, sustainable material might not be the solution. But what I'm trying to say, and then I have a next page here, is to say that sustainability of CMF or sustainable CMF goes beyond the choice of materials. And let me go to the next slide. And this is shared by the knowledge of Gavin McLean. He used to be the design for sustainability engineer when we were working together at Logitech. And I was very fortunate. After I left Logitech, I wanted to get more insights from him, and he shared a few examples. So here is one of the examples that he was mentioning, and then I was like able to find some like some product examples that can actually capture and storytell what he was trying to deliver. If you'd like to read more into the article, the QR code over there allows you to read that into more details. There are more examples that he was talking about, but here I'm gonna start with this one in the image in the photo. So on the left is both of them are uncoated black plastic, obviously different product category, but both of them have this polished area, especially the one on the left, like a full surface, flat surface with a very nice polished area. And designer love including that, me as well. I feel like, oh, it's more polished, but then that also comes with a defect, like a con, which is easily scratched. If this product is delivered to the consumer hand, that's okay. You scratch it, it's on you. We're gonna, as a company, we're not going to refund. But the question is, your problem is that when the product is produced, they're produced into different plastic parts, and then you assemble them. Actually, you have a huge batch of them that are sometimes delivered from here to the other room, and then assemble in the assembly line and put into packaging, and then send to the store first, and then send to the consumer. So with this lengthy process, there are so many opportunities to put a scratch on there or put a fingerprint on there. So to resolve that quality issue, because we don't want consumer to be like receiving the product and say, hey, there's a fingerprint, hey, there is a scratch. So to resolve that, we add a film, which is the curl thing on in the photo right here. And this is a product that was sold for million in quantity. Then you have a million of this little film. You might think a little one's okay, but we're selling it at millions of quantity, and you just have this unnecessarily film that's produced in this quantity, and we don't have to have that. So on the right side, this is actually a water boiler, and which I found is a great example, is that they applied the same polish, this uncoated polished plastic on the lower deboss area. So it's less, there's a less chance of this being scratched before it was delivered to the consumer. And like I said, like if you're interested in learning more examples, scan the QR code. There are a few more different ways of thinking about CMF. Like this is industrial design as well as CMF. So this kind of sustainability design thinking can be totally beyond. It is the choice of material, but it's also, there are also other areas that you can practice it.
Yeah, it's basically how the material choice is going to impact way beyond just the product. It's impacting the world, it's impacting usability, and it's a layer of things that normally companies or places don't understand. And that's why successful brands have the CMF teams and get broader audiences and experiences out of their products. So we also wanted to ask, how do you measure success? And this in CMF is a topic, like it's not an easy thing to measure, especially as it varies a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I think from a project level, there are many different measures to call it a success in a project. Like I'm saving money, that might be a success for some project. I am making beautiful color options for marketing reason. For some project, that's a success. So it's very different, but I want to maybe like collectively as a CMF team, I would say CMF team is, CMF team is successful if it's being recognized, right? Instead of being asked to sort out the mess in production or sort out something, you start to earning that respect of, oh, they see this team as the expert in CMF, all the things that we just talked about, and they come for your advice. And a good, an actual example, so I was at Motorola for 4 years. The first year when I joined, it was fires everywhere, and we're just, I was really pretty much the first year was just putting down fires everywhere, because I joined at a time where there's no alignment. It was just a very difficult time and I want to, like, it's not Motorola. It was a time when Lenovo and Motorola was merging. So because of that reason, there was a lot of misalignment and all that. So first year was really spent on that. And you can tell, like, people were really they come to CMF at the later stage of design, or kind of like demanding for what they want to do, and you as a CMF team give me a solution. But then 4 years later, or throughout the process, you start gaining those trust, and then the design, other people will come to you more like asking for your advices because they already work with you. They work with the CMF team and they understand the expertise, and they kind of will come approach you in a different way, like, hey, this is what we are trying to achieve, or hey, this is the budget that we're trying to do, or this is the only material process that we're able to do. Do you have a suggestion? Instead of like, that's a very, I would call that as a success, as a like a collective team.
Awesome. And how would you ensure consistency in CMF applications across different product lines? I mean, Courtney, you work in multiple products, and it's like hard to, of course, make sure everything is the exact same. How do you normally target this challenge?
Yeah, so creating standards is really important for consistent CMF application. It's really, whether you're a personal independent brand or larger company, building a library of approved colors or your go-to finishes can be, really helpful, because it could be problematic down the line if you don't follow certain standards, if you have multiple colored blacks that you call black. And it makes your process a lot faster and more efficient, and people can communicate easier internally and externally. So definitely using standards, building your own library. But I also think, if you're a designer that may not have, access to using certain color systems like Pantone and Coloro, developing your own colors and having fun with naming them and getting creative, making it your own and making it unique to your brand is a really cool way to introduce that into your portfolio and your workflow, because, no one's stopping you from making your own colors.
Right. Awesome. And now we're going to answer our title question. So why should brands actually care about CMF?
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about this throughout the, I think, entire presentation, but, CMF is really storytelling, and it can really build the emotional connection and foster this brand connection and relationship with users. And having more premium finishes and processes can also just elevate the quality of your products and can make you position things at a higher price point. So that can increase sales. And if you are working with clients that are, recognizing these increased sales due to the CMF or due to your designs, they'll want to keep coming back to you. And I think another thing about CMF is there's really like no competition, in general. If everyone, there's room for all of us, because if everyone is really just authentic to their brand, or authentic in staying true to what makes you, or what makes the brand that, then no one's really the same. So it makes me think of an author of a children's book is hiring an illustrator that they're attracted to that style, and that's kind of why I see brands caring more, and why clients will come back to you if they see that you're putting the care and attention into the products.
Awesome. I will also add to that as our closing remark, but we still have a section to answer more questions. But let me close our questions, like our panel, with I think 3 principles that I've been talking quite frequently previously, and if I think we have a slide for that. So I put this together. This is the 3 core principles that I believe is very important for CMF. I was very lucky to be learning different from different mentors or different. Pretty much, this is the collective knowledge of the CMF community, and these are the 3 that I pick out throughout the entire CMF workflow, whether you're industrial designer or CMF designer, these are kind of the three principles that you always want to continuously be checking. Like, am I doing this? How am I doing that? So going back to that questions, like how to communicate the value of CMF to like clients and why should brand cares? I think I would use these three principles kind of like a language when I communicate to whoever I'm talking to. The first one, emotional value, is a little tricky. We had that exercise just earlier, looking at the products around us. What does that make us feel? But also recently realized not everyone feels the same way. So it's a little bit more abstract, but the viability and perceived quality are definitely a great way to rationalize the value of CMF. Viability means you have a design concept, and how do you transfer that from the screen to reality, right? Bring that product and really adding the physical user experience to your product. And can you make it, right? Like viability, is it viable for production? There are a lot of design concepts that are actually not available in mass production. So viability is super key. That's kind of like the milestone between concepts and a real product in the market. And then perceived quality, we already mentioned this a lot of time. And it's also super important quality, like super important language to use when you talk to non-CMF designers is they care, like obviously brands want to make products and they want to make great products, right? We all shop probably somewhere. I see this website, Temu, and there's also Shin and also like a lot of Amazon products as well. They keep feeding me all the the ads, but like that is how your brands can differentiate from those mass market, like those like other brands who do not care about CMF. Like if you want your brand, like if you want to establish a brand that's trusted for quality, you want to be recognized, that you want to be differentiated. Perceived quality is kind of pretty much the key. So I would say like these three things definitely is the language that you can use to communicate the importance of CMF with non-CMF designers. Like, are you connecting with your consumer emotionally? Is your design viable for mass production? And are you making great products by enhancing the perceived quality as much as you could within your budget? And I think that kind of closes our panel here.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I think that all of this, these three things that Rina just mentioned can also be even things to measure success in your projects and show to your company or to your brand the value that you can create and you can stand for while by adding CMF as part of your design process and being conscious that it's not only in the end and it's all the way through. And now we can hop on to some questions and feel free to drop them in the chat or don't be shy, unmute and let us know what you think and if you have any doubts.
Hi, I know this.
Sorry.
Oh, you can go first.
Go ahead. No, Jade. Oh, sorry, Jada. I'm sorry that I kept calling Jade. Go ahead, please.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I had a question regarding sorry if this seems a little bit out of left field, but any advice regarding like CMF when it comes to like soft goods? I've seen it mainly used for consumer electronics, but is there any proper how do you go? Have you guys ever had any experience with like soft goods CMF or yeah, if that makes any sense? Like how would you describe the process going about that? But yeah.
Courtney,
Does that make sense? Or
have you worked with soft goods?
Yeah, a little bit. Oh wait, my bad. I'm sorry. I misheard what you said. I'm sorry. I've been like I'm sorry.
So, McCray, are you asking more so how you can implement it into your portfolio, or are you in a position where you're working on a soft good product and you want to know how to get into it in a better process?
Kind of a combination of both, but I guess the second one mostly applies. Yeah, because I feel like in those scenarios it would mainly focus on the color of it. I'm not really sure about I do know that material does play color and material, I should say, but yeah, I'm not really sure about the finish aspect of it when it comes into the product. So yeah, if you guys have any experience with that, well, I would much appreciate like that kind of stuff.
I think the first question to answer would be what you need the fabric piece of your product or the fabric component to achieve. Go down the line of questions of how durable it needs to be and like what the material properties need to be. And then from there, you can really see what room you have to play with like color and different weaving patterns and different ways to get the look of it to be. I guess if there were also things that you needed to do to the fabric of, processes to finish it, like, I don't know, if something needs to be called out or identified more directly, maybe there's, you can look at printing on fabric and stuff like that. But definitely when you're walking into any project and you're unfamiliar with the material that is new to you, you definitely want to do as much research as possible. And if you have connection with the factory, they often have a lot of material knowledge or the engineers. So I would start there.
I also heard, so I pretty much mostly work with hard materials, but for the small involvement on the soft goods, I learned that it's so complicated because the structure of soft material also includes like weaving, and that kind of really changes all the like the hardness or the softness, the stretchiness of the product. So it's a whole new spectrum, and this is what I love about CMF is I've been in the field for since 2011, and I'm still learning. Like for soft good, there are so much I can learn from. So if you are someone that's always passionate about learning something new, definitely CMF is something you can continue to grow the knowledge with. If you would like to learn more specifically about CMF of soft goods, looking into I believe sneakers industry like Nike, Puma, and then also the other one is automotive industry. They also use a lot of soft materials. So those two could be areas where you can look into and then learn to see if there are things that you can learn about soft materials.
Thank you.
I do want to call out a question from Royden. I just want to understand a little bit more about the question in the chat. The original question is, does CMF also involve knowledge of ASTM material codes and knowing dissociating materials such as stainless steel can be paired with aluminum, which can cause it to rust? So actually I had to say like, is Royden still on the call? Do you want to elaborate on that, or should I just go ahead and answer what I know? I don't see.
Sorry, yeah, give me. It's loud. I'm still at work technically watching this. Yeah. So my question is it applicable having the knowledge for those codes? Those ASTM codes it's kind of like DIN codes. and JAS codes, which is international codes for each region that they apply to specific materials. Like you have 303, 302 stainless steel, which are different types. You have 316. So it's different designations for particular grades of stainless, aluminum, brass, that kind of thing. I wanted to know if it is a required knowledge to have that kind of knowledge on hand, and also if it's generally practiced that when you're going into design, you're also including the forethought of having certain materials included in the production and the design of the thing, or of whatever you're making. So does that also include having the prior knowledge, I guess more engineering knowledge standpoint of knowing these certain materials can't go together, knowing these codes for how you want it manufacture. If you want to manufacture a certain way, you have to use a certain specific grade of, in this case, like an ASTM code grade of stainless, because some of them are cold forged, heat forged when you're using the stock materials for making the final product, which can affect how it's manufactured as well as the final quality of the product when it's done. Is it required to know all of that beforehand, or is it generally not really looked into on the CMF side of things? Is that more something that's, I guess, approached after the fact, or after it passes on from design to, I guess, final manufacturing and engineering?
Yeah. So it really depends on where you sit in the workflow as well, because there are CMFs that are more focused on strategy. There are also CMF that are more focused on the technical aspects. They might even be called CMF engineers instead of CMF designers. But I do have CMF designer friend who later became switched to like a CMF engineer career. So she later on in her career, she started digging into more of the technical aspects. But I think answering to your question, I don't think it's a prior knowledge that you must have, but more importantly, the prior knowledge to have, or the concept to have, is to know that you'll always be learning something new, especially if you're entering a new company, especially when you are entering a new industry. Just having that idea, having that understanding that, hey, I'm going to come in and start learning a bunch of things. There might be new different standards that are different from what I used to work with. And just having that concept, I think that's more important. There are a few CMF roles that really require prior knowledge and expertise, but those are super senior and super specialized. I believe Apple at one point was also was hiring CMF specialists, or I think they call it subject matter specialists, that is focused on like a very, I think it was PVD process, or like one of the process, like something very specific. Yeah, but that's not always the case. A lot of companies, for a lot of roles for CMF, you don't have to join with everything that you must have to know. Does that answer?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Rina, completely. Like, I don't think being a master of CMF necessarily means you need to be a master of all the, materials out there. But I do think you become a lot more professional if you know who to ask, and if you can, clearly define exactly what you want. If you know what you want, then that's great. But if you don't know, and you can get, those answers, or have more expert people recommend those finishes, then that's great too.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Should we go down the list?
Awesome.
I see Nada has the hand raised.
Yeah. Should I go for it? Yeah. So my question was from a student design portfolio, like wanting to do a CMF one. Like, for example, like I did like water flosser design, and I was like, oh, I wanted to do like a matte finish because the other ones in the market are more of a shiny finish. And I was like showing that to one of my friends who works at an engineering company, and he's like, oh, that, like, what does matte mean? Like, because there's so many different things. Like, I was wondering, like, what kind of, how specific, like, what do you expect from a student? Like, should I go more into like thinking about like, because like, for example, like the companies have all these different samples of all the different ones that are technically matte. Like, how detailed should I aim to be without like kind of like overthinking the projects? Like, what do you expect from a student, and what would be a good, like, how deep should you go into the materials?
As a student, I would say matte, like just having the knowledge of matte, glossy, all the different kind of finishing is good as a starting point as a student. Once you start like practicing in the real world, then you'll get to work with like different different levels of madness or gloss level, and even like texture wise, there's a German standard that's called VDI. VDI level, it's a VDI 23, VDI 27. It's like a number that associated with the texture of the plastic, and that kind of defines the gloss level or the matte level of a plastic finish. But even for that, you have a standard, but every factory still have slightly different variations of how that VDI, it's a standard, but people still have different their own set of standards. So once you start like working in a company, you will a lot of time will actually use a physical sample as a communication standard. It's like, hey, this is what we're trying to achieve. And we'll specify, like within a company, usually we'll start to build like a library. Like, hey, this is what we define as a 10% within this company. This is what we define as what and what. So as a student, don't stress much about that. But once you're in the real world, that will come.
Thank you for clarifying, because my friend showed me all these samples. I'm like, oh, do I need to go that in depth? So thank you so much for clarifying.
Yeah, and there's kind of another CMF portfolio question that's maybe a little bit connected. What will be called as a good CMF portfolio? What should it include? Essentially, if one is applying to different industries like automotive, consumer electronics, etc., how should it change or not change? Can the same portfolio be shared with all? I would say, diversity is awesome, and I struggled with this a lot too when I was applying to positions. But I think essentially the basis of what I would look at in someone that knows CMF is that they understand all of the things that we've been talking about, the storytelling and whatnot. If you have, if you're showing color on product, that's great, but someone should be able to ask you, oh, why did you do that? And if you say just, oh, I liked it like that, it's not going to hit the same as if you say, well, I was inspired by this brand, and this is where it really came from, and this was my thought process through it all. And I even tried it in Photoshop and this before rendering it out, and showing those ways that you got there is, I think, really key in a portfolio that could be shared across different industries.
Also, I see somebody raising their hands. Feel free to unmute, please.
Yes, I was trying to figure out the answer for a while, the question, sorry, because I think I figured out I would ask two questions. I'm almost sure that I understood it correctly, that Courtney and Rina should be able to work a lot with like with materials and products that require material to be more tactile, or like just creating this feeling from the customer that that he likes to hold this product, right? And I kind of start to think about it lately, because one of the designers that I know just was basically taking and holding the piece of the product that I was making from recycled plastic that have really nice tactile qualities, and kind of emphasized that, wow, this is tactile, it's just really nice. Like, don't you want to kind of emphasize this? And I'm wondering how important or how a big role of this, like quality of material, how big role is right now in the product market? Like, did you experience it, and how do you think it's how much importance it's had in the product development? And another question will be kind of related to this and to the recycled or upcycled materials or plastics again. And if we have something nice to touch, how do we care about the like antibacterial qualities? So like, is it important to think about how antibacterial it is, especially after the pandemic situation? How big of importance of this also in the contemporary products? And if you ever worked with something like this, because I'm trying to bring one of this project to my portfolio, and I want to kind of highlight these areas and kind of emphasize it. So I just want to know your opinion if you worked with something like this before.
Is the second question about antibacterial?
Yeah, antibacterial qualities of the product. Yeah.
Okay. So actually, these two questions are sort of related, because I remember I was writing a report maybe for WGSN or something, but like the hygiene, maybe not for WGSN, but it like the hygiene of a tactility, like the smoothness, or like if it's rough, right? Like germs can also stick on top of that. So that's also related. And tactility, definitely, that's part of the physical user experience that CMF can bring. So you have texture, right? Emote texture for plastic. You also have hairline or sandblasting for metal. You could have glossier ones, matte ones. You could have soft touch coating. All of that change your tactility. So definitely tactility is a key. And that's also one thing we cannot feel from the screen. And that makes CMF even more important, because we are so much with the digital, we're living in a digital era now. But I firmly believe, and knock on the wood, that CMF is not going to be replaced with AI just yet, because it's really about the physical experience, and it can only be delivered in the physical world.
Yeah, and it also sounded like you were asking a little bit about how important it is for those maybe recycled materials to shine. And I would say, if you're able to use a recycled material in a product, please don't cover it with paint, because I think that's such a cool element. And I think so many people would want to buy it because they can see the organic recycled element of it. So yeah, definitely, that's everywhere. You know, the sustainability, environmental materials are always trendy and I think desirable. But I guess if it looks really horrible, maybe you cover it up, but please don't.
But as far as I know, also you cannot cover it up, because like then it's gonna be not recyclable, right? We just discussed it before. Yeah. But there are another questions coming up, like how to make this, how to propose the hygiene in these materials, right? Because like if you have a matte, nice to touch, recycled plastic qualities, like it's really hard to make it more hygienic for people to use, especially when right now everybody's so nervous about it after the pandemic, right? So it's just an interesting kind of area to explore. But do you feel that I like the idea that you emphasize the AI is not going to be able to solve these problems, because he's not in the physical world, and we still will need to figure out how people are going to feel about our product, physically touching it and using it every day. So did you have experience, like especially Courtney is working with a lot with vacuum cleaners, like definitely I expect that some of the details should be nice to the touch, because people will be using them a lot. And Rina was working with mobile phones. It's a little bit different story, but it's also had this kind of qualities, right? You cannot make a product that will be hard to touch or just not really nice in material. But did you have experience when, for example, some material development didn't go well and somehow the material was not nice for the customer to use or something like this? That's, I think, will be interesting also to know.
Yeah, something that I've had to do a lot with, handheld products is you almost want to like pretend you're not even, you can't even see the product and you're just feeling it and any little part line, and we have to come up with, approval levels of part lines because it could be, too rough, but there has to be a part line no matter what. So little things like that are really important with handheld products and just overall feel and wearing away. But actually the unit that I showed earlier of the flex style with the bedazzled surface had a lot of trial and error. There were, these stones or crystals that we ordered that, didn't necessarily feel comfortable in the hand, or were too like large and looked awkward. So, finally getting to a crystal that can shine the way we want it to, but also feel good, was really great. And it did require us to kind of go and look at the market and be able to like pinpoint exactly what we wanted to say, like, can we make this? Like, how do we do it? So I think like that curiosity and constant revisions early on is really important to drive, those types of processes to be better for the user.
Well, to be mindful with everyone's time, thank you for answering all of these questions. We're going to go over just one last question on the chat that was asked by Rebecca. It says, what are a few go-to stories, either examples of products or real encounters you've had enrolling clients into the value of CMF that you can share to sell and help the company, buy on why CMF is so valuable? I personally have one. I think that Starbucks is a great one. And I think that you see people doing a really long line in Starbucks every freaking time in an airport, for example. And then Dunkin' Donuts in the other side has like two people in the line. This is a great moment to see the power of CMF. People prefer to be standing on a line that is surrounded of beautiful things of interior design and an environment that makes them feel better, because it won't be a hesitant and annoying line rather than being outside watching nothing other than whatever is around without any thought. And I tend to use that as an example because it shows how powerful it is, so much that it would make you sacrifice time over a nice experience, because it goes beyond the product. This goes around the experience you are on the line, and somebody thought about what does it look like around you.
Thanks for that, Daniela. That's a really good example. I appreciate that. Exactly what I was looking for.
Lovely. Yeah, I know it's such a struggle. It's always trying to find the little examples that make the difference. Helps a lot to make people actually realize it, because it's so natural to just fall into it and just, don't know why you went for it. But well, thank you so much, everyone. It was amazing to have you all over, and well, we'll be sending the recording to everyone that registered. And thank you. I hope to see you soon in the upcoming events. Please keep in touch with our design community. We're always happy to receive you in Boston. If you're not from Boston and you're coming, maybe check if there's an event around, or if you want to partner, please contact us through LinkedIn, Instagram, or become a member on IDSA to get more access to free events. And if you're interested, we also have our sponsorship and partnership team members that you can reach out to and be more specific on your asks for.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.
Thank you. Feel free to
Thank
connect
you.
with
This
any
was
of
great.
us if you have more questions.
Thank you for the talk.
Yeah, thank you. Daniela, I was just wanted to, the chat will also be saved because I didn't get a chance to save all the links shared in there.
Yes.
Okay,
I've been
perfect.
saving the
Thank
chat.
you so much. I really enjoyed this event and looking forward to learning more. But yeah, have a good day.
Thank you so
Great,
much for
thank you.
joining, Nada.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.
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 Oh, we lost Courtney.
I think she hasn't seen the chat.
Yeah, I don't think she has in the chat. That's okay. Should we just feed it, like talk in the chat or?
Let's see.
Oh, stop
Let me see if
recording though
she's.
first. Otherwise,
Oh,
everyone
yeah.
will see our conversation. Yeah.
Let me see if
job.
I
Oh,
can
it's still
end.
recording.
Oh wait, still recording. Pause. Stop recording. Here we go.